Yo, what's going on? Today I'm showcasing C0 to C6 Sara, where I'm planning to show her in her ideal team comps, at least where you can use her and kind of the importance of each constellation if you get it, to kind of see where's a good stopping point if you are summoning multiple times for her, or if you do get a certain version of her, or a certain amount of constellations on her, what's the best. But for now, right now, I'm showing kind of C0 Sara and where she is ideally. And it's not going to change much with her constellations where she ideally would stay, right? She is, as you've known, is an attack booster, right? But she only boosts for 6 seconds. This coincidentally works perfectly with Ball and or A, and she's able to buffer nearly completely over the full duration of Shogun's complete, burst. But she can also boost a lot of other characters quite decently, and it's going to be characters that snapshot. And if you don't know what snapshotting is basically whenever these characters use an ult that's long standing or that lasts over a certain duration, they're going to be able to capture whatever attack buff you gave them and keep it. So if you saw Zhangling was going from 8k to 11k damage the entire duration because she was snapshotting the buff that Sara does. So the 6 seconds don't even matter because essentially snapshotting is saving. Like they're saving the attack buff into their ult. So both Sara, both Zhangling and Beidou are both able to snapshot. So all you have to do is pop Sara before casting their ult. You got to make sure that they get buffed because you'll see if when I don't cast it correctly, they don't get buffed. And that's when she's doing 5k per proc. But when she's doing 7k per proc, Beidou is buffed, and she's doing it the entire duration because she snapshots and saves the attack buff into her ult. So I know a lot of people were upset about Beidou not being able to work with Raiden Shogun. But I think we kind of got a nice little surprise in someone who still can work with Beidou, meanwhile allowing you to free up your Bennett. Because a lot of people would play Bennett and Beidou, so they'll use Bennett and give Beidou a lot of attack. She would snapshot it, and then for the whole duration, she would have that Bennett buff, even if the Bennett buff wore off after her duration is still continuing. But now you kind of have someone who provides not only double electro, a sort of battery, but also is able to nicely boost out your team. And I know a lot of people may have questions on whether or not her C6 snapshots or Beidou's ult saves to C6. We confirm it at the end of the video or nearing the middle of the video. So you can either skip to there or watch up till there, preferably watch up to there and stuff like that. But right now we're showing her C1 constellation. I had to switch off of her off of the sacrificial bow because that could make the tests annoying for one, and kind of people could say, oh, it's just the sac bow that's causing it and stuff like that. So right now I'm kind of showing, when you swap off of her and stuff like that, what ends up happening and everything like that. I'm also showing the damage of like the level 90. If you were to level 90 the sac bow, how much extra damage you would get, because right now I'm using an 8 out of 90. It goes up by 200 damage per proc for Beidou, so nothing too much, I would always say you want to send your weapons and level them to 90 if possible to get the max buff from her, as well as 90ing her, which is why you saw I 90'd Sara. You want to 90 her as soon as you can, and give her the highest base attack weapons, because that's going to help her boost out the team as much as possible, which is why I feel like sac is really the best, because it's a very high base attack weapon, as you see, and it has ER. It's a really good weapon for her. Yes, her durations are a bit short, but it really is nice because you kind of almost always have her buff up, because as you see in C2, the C2 can proc it. So that little thing right there can proc it. Her charge shot can then proc it as well. If that first part didn't proc it, her charge shot can proc it. So it's a lot of it's pretty nice. It's a pretty nice weapon for her. I think her best in slot. Like if you're going 5-star variant, maybe as a stat stick you can go Elegy, but if you want to get the highest possible buff from Sara, I would say for that purpose, Harp is the best. But you won't have that much ER, and you want to kind of get as much ER on her as possible because she's also an 80 cost burst character. So that's one of the things. But as you saw, it's a lot more convenient when you use C2. You don't have to sit there and shoot it. If you don't have C2, you can get used to it. I did get used to the charge shot play style. You have to be very tactical. I guess it goes with her theme. You have to be very tactical if you have pre C2. But yeah, C3 you can just see it's just going to be a damage bump for her. You're not really boosting out the team anymore. It just goes, it just does more damage. You can see also I go up to 24k after buffing myself and a crit. So we're about 4k, about 5k extra damage from the levels, which is decent because the scaling on electro characters is really high. So that was pretty nice. And then C4 is just extra AoE, which is nice, especially with with more than 2 enemies. Her actual AoE is really good. It again doesn't boost out characters anymore, but as you can see, you can get multiple hits on enemies with the extra procs, as well as like much larger AoE. So C4 is nice, but again, the same it's going to be the same boost. It's like from C0 to C4, it's the same boost. But now here's the more of the juicy ones, which is where I want to comment. Like both Bennett's C5 and Sara's C5 are some of their most important constellations because it increases their boost, how much they can boost. Unlike Bennett, Sara kind of really wants C2 for maximum flexibility, whereas Bennett only wants C1. So that's the difference between both of them. But the cool part too is But as I was testing more and more team comps with Sara, a lot of the time as well, she really does show you want to have her with another electro character, and there's another showcase of like how high the boost is right now. So you can kind of see it goes up to 7.7k when it was so about a couple hundred extra from the previous procs. So about I would say 300 extra from the previous procs. So it's pretty decent. The actual levels really do help, and then you can also add more, and it gets way higher. So it's good. But then here is now us testing out C6. So when you see C6, you can kind of tell like, oh, okay, it started to drop off. The first proc was like, the first of Beto's ult was like 10k per proc. That's a lot, right? But then it doesn't snapshot. C6 doesn't snapshot, unfortunately. So when you, like the first part of, it really is most useful for characters that burst, like Keqing. So Keqing really can take advantage of C6 Sara the most, and Sara in general for an attack buff. Again, because a lot of people run Keqing with Bennett because she kind of needs that attack to hit pretty hard. You now have double electro as well as like extra crit damage at C6 to kind of boost out and make her stronger, right? So you can kind of see how strong, how much stronger Keqing is gonna go from her original base limit. You see each proc is now doing 4,000. We didn't see that slash, but we'll show the slash. Slash goes all the way up from 20k to 30k at the end. As you see right there, yep, 30k. So it's a 10k increase, and nearly doubling each of the individual slashes. So Sara is a very good companion for any Keqing enjoyers. So I would say if you have a constellated, especially C6 Sara at some point, and you love Keqing, they definitely work together well. But of course, the person that works the most with Sara is, you guessed it, the Raiden Shogun. The person basically almost crafted to work well with him. And as you saw, like the cool part about having both of them on the team is that you can quickly buff each person before they do their burst with Sara, especially when she's highly constellated. And Raiden's also buffing the bursts. So both of them together just make bursts go crazy. You can see Raiden's Eye of Stormy Judgment pushed pushed Sara's burst from 33k to 37k, and yeah, so it's actually really nice having both of them on the team, except if the other two characters are burst heavy. So that's one of the cool parts. But and also, as you saw, when pre Sara buff was 35k for full resolve stacks for Raiden. But once you use C6 Sara on C0 Raiden, you can double Raiden's slash damage and burst damage in general. So it's just really, really good. Which is nice to know, because since they work so well together and you can get C6 Sara over time, even as a free-to-play, just by summoning on her banners or getting her on-off rolls and things like that, it's quite nice that C6 can boost out your Raiden so much, given that without her, she doesn't hit even nearly as hard, right? Even with VV and all the shred, it's just kind of like Sara really does fit the most. Now here is just the obligatory Bennett Kazuha showcase that all the content creators love doing. Kind of toss it in at the end of the video so y'all can see what happens when you throw all the best supports in the game at her and see how she fits against the best supports. So you kind of see what, Sara's doing like 55k on her burst. And she's facilitating all of this, allowing for Raiden to do 135k. C0 Raiden, by the way, with a 4-star weapon, right? So C0 4-star weapon Raiden with this showcase is able to do 138k. And loop into it too, right? She's able to do that continuously, right? Because she recharges her own burst and everyone's burst, then it just continue the cycle. So this is a team comp that you literally can run. I don't know what your other team will look like on the other side of the abyss, for example. But yeah, this team is very, very strong. Though I would say normally, as you saw, you're most likely going to be doing around 60k if you're just having C6 Sara. But thanks for watching.